Dave Ramsey's step-by-step plan to get rich in 60 seconds. Well, I guess it might take a little longer than 60 seconds, but if you follow these 5 steps, you will become financially free faster than you ever thought was possible. Most people will work for 40 years, make over $1 million in their lifetime, and still retire broke. Why? Because nobody ever taught them the simple principles of money that actually work. Dave Ramsey has spent over 20 years teaching financial freedom to millions of people. I went through his entire system and boiled it down into a 15-minute crash course so you can start changing your money today without reading 10 books or listening to 500 podcast episodes. Step No. 1 is to destroy your debt. Debt is the biggest wealth killer. Most people think debt is normal credit cards, car loans, student loans. But debt steals your income every single month. If you're sending $500 to lenders every month, that's $6,000 a year you could have invested. Over 20 years, that's more than $200,000 lost. So, how do we get rid of it with the debt snowball? First, write down every single debt you have from smallest to largest regardless of the interest rate. Pay the minimum balance on all of them except the smallest one. Throw everything you've got at the smallest one until it's gone. Then take the money you were paying on that first debt and roll it into the next smallest debt. Now you're snowballing money at debt. The psychological win keeps you motivated to keep going. This doesn't care about interest rates. You might pay a little more overall, but you won't quit. And once you clear the debt, avoid it like the plague. Use cash or debit for every purchase, and don't buy anything you can't afford. Only use credit cards for what I call dumb money, things like airline miles or cash back on stuff you'd buy anyway. The other thing you should avoid is store credit cards like Victoria's Secret or Old Navy. They offer 10% off your next purchase, but they also charge some of the highest interest rates in the industry. So don't be fooled. The second principle is the emergency fund. 60% of people couldn't cover a $1,000 emergency. One flat tire and they're back in debt again. How do you get out of that cycle? You build up an emergency fund. Start with a starter emergency fund of $1,000 as fast as you can. Then build up to 3 to 6 months of expenses. Think of it as your financial helmet. It protects you when life punches you in the face. When you lose your job, get sued, need surgery, you'll have the money set aside to take care of it instead of going into debt. But why do so many people struggle with this? We live in a paycheck-to-paycheck mentality. Once you get paid, you spend it all on stuff you don't need. Then you need to borrow money to survive until your next paycheck. So how do you fix this? On the first of every month, set aside 10% of your paycheck into your savings account, then spend the rest of your paycheck like it's the only money you have. You can change your direct deposit at work or set up an automatic transfer from your checking to savings each month. Either way, you won't even see the money, so it won't tempt you to spend it. And you may think this is crazy, right? Why would you tell someone to save 10% of their paycheck when they could use that money to pay off debt or invest? Because without the emergency fund, you won't stick to the plan. Your lines go into debt when life throws you a curveball and you won't have the discipline to stay on track long term. The emergency fund makes everything else possible. The third principle is living below your means. Now, you can make $1 million a year, but if you spend $1,000,001, you'll always be broke. People spend all their time trying to increase their income because they think that's the path to wealth. But they ignore the bigger wealth killer, lifestyle creep. Your income raises or bonuses, all of which are wonderful, end up going to a bigger house, a nicer car, or fancier vacations. Instead, you need to learn to spend less than you make, period. For every $100 you make, spend less than $90. The other $10 goes towards debt snowball, investments, and the emergency fund. And you might think this means being cheap, driving a clunker, wearing hand-me-downs, and eating top ramen, but that's not what this is about. It's about getting the big things right. Yes, drive a used car, but don't skip insurance. Get good insurance on your home and health. These small upfront costs will save you hundreds of thousands of dollars in the future. Focus on getting the big things right, then save on the small stuff. Frugal living is keeping the thermostat at 78 in the summer, drinking tap water, and buying generic brands when it doesn't affect the quality. But it's not depriving yourself to reach your goals faster. Instead of acting like you're rich, act like you're poor. Live like you're making less than you actually do. A family making $60,000 a year but living like they make $40,000 will build wealth faster than a family earning $100,000 but spending $110,000. In fact, according to the Consumer Expenditure Survey, the bottom quintile of earners spend less per year than the top quintile. The fourth principle is investing consistently. According to the Wall Street Journal, most people wait 23 years before they start investing. Why? They're waiting for the right time. The perfect time to start investing is right now. You'll never feel perfectly ready. You'll always feel like you need more time, more money, or more knowledge. Stop waiting and start doing. Start with your retirement accounts. The fifth principle is building generational wealth. Now, most people want two things. They want to retire comfortably and leave a legacy. Unfortunately, they stop at the first one. They obsess over retiring comfortably and they forget about leaving a legacy. So here's your wake-up call. Generational wealth isn't about you. It's about paying off your home early, building wealth for your family, and giving generously. When you do these three things, you change your family tree. Generational wealth is measured by how many generations you move your family forward. Dave Ramsey tells the story of a woman who called in to complain that her husband was giving too much to charity. She said he'd given more than $100,000 away, and she wasn't happy about it. Ramsey asked her, "Do you want to be remembered as a woman who hoarded all her money, or as a woman who gave it away?" Here's the deal. If you want to be rich, you can't think like the average person. Average people want nice things. They want a new car, a big house, fancy clothes, and designer handbags. They justify it by saying they worked hard for it, they deserve it, or they have to have it. Rich people don't think like this. Rich people delay gratification. They say no to that new car and yes to driving a 5-year-old Toyota. They say no to the big house and yes to renting a cheaper home so they can invest the difference. They say no to the luxury brand and yes to the thrift store. The reason for this is simple. When you say no to the extra stuff, you free up your resources to say yes to what's important, your family, your business, and your future. Here's what you can do today. Write down every debt you have from smallest to largest. Save $1,000 as fast as you can. It's your shield against the chaos of debt. And start living on less than you earn this month. Do those three things and you'll already be further ahead than 90% of people. Now, if you want to dive deeper into the 5 principles of wealth, I've taken 100+ hours of financial wisdom from Dave Ramsey and compressed it into short, powerful lessons you can use to build wealth faster than most people even realize is possible. And if you want to know the 5 worst money habits that keep people broke, watch this video here. See you there.